Before you fall asleep tonight, there is something inside you that never sleeps. It does not think. It does not feel. It does not wonder who you are. And yet, it knows you completely. Every breath you take, every cell in your body, every quiet repair happening beneath your awareness follows instructions written long before you were born. A code so small it fits inside a single cell, yet so vast it contains the history of life itself. This code is not symbolic, it is physical, and it is active right now. DNA is not just information, it is memory made matter. It remembers how to build a body from a single cell. It remembers how to heal damage, how to adapt, how to continue. Long before language existed, long before thought emerged, this code was already writing instructions in silence. It does not speak in words, it speaks in sequences, repetitions, and timing, and your body listens without question. What makes this code extraordinary is not its complexity, but its patience. DNA works slowly, methodically, without awareness of time. It copies itself billions of times without fatigue. It corrects errors quietly. It responds to the environment without intention. While your mind moves from thought to thought, the code inside you continues its work uninterrupted, following rules older than consciousness itself. As you move towards sleep, your awareness begins to fade, but the code does not pause. Cells continue to divide, proteins continue to assemble, instructions continue to be read and executed with precision. The mind rests, the code continues. Life does not depend on attention, it depends on sequence, and sequence does not need to be watched. Tonight's journey is not about genetics as information, but DNA as process, as rhythm, as memory unfolding in silence. You do not need to understand the code consciously, your body already does. As you listen, allow awareness to soften, knowing that something far more ancient than thought is already keeping everything in order. You are not drifting into rest alone. The code inside you has been guiding life long before sleep ever existed. Inside every cell of your body exists a structure so small it escapes direct perception, yet so powerful it quietly defines your entire physical existence. DNA is not a metaphorical code, it is a chemical sequence, arranged with precision, carrying instructions that determine how cells grow, divide, repair, and specialize. This code does not operate occasionally or selectively. It is active at every moment, reading and rewriting itself in response to internal conditions and external signals. While consciousness drifts, this process continues uninterrupted, maintaining the coherence of life without awareness or intention. What makes DNA remarkable is its indifference to experience. It does not respond to emotion, belief, or thought. It responds only to chemistry and timing. Each segment of DNA contains instructions for producing proteins, the molecular machines that perform nearly all cellular functions. These instructions are not executed all at once. They are accessed selectively, depending on context. In this way, DNA behaves less like a static blueprint and more like a dynamic script, read differently in each cell, at each moment, according to need. This selective reading is what allows one body to contain so many different forms. Every cell carries the same DNA, yet a neuron behaves nothing like a muscle cell, and a skin cell follows an entirely different rhythm than a liver cell. The difference lies not in the code itself, but in which parts are activated and which remains silent. Silence in this context is not absence, it is restraint. DNA expresses only what is required, conserving energy and maintaining balance across the system. The reading of DNA occurs through complex molecular interactions that require no oversight. Enzymes bind, strands unwind, sequences are transcribed, and proteins assemble, all without central coordination. There is no conductor. There is only local interaction guided by chemical affinity. This decentralized process is one of DNA's greatest strengths. Life does not depend on a single point of control. It emerges from countless small processes happening correctly, quietly, and continuously. Over billions of years, this code has refined itself through repetition. Errors that disrupted function were eliminated. Sequences that supported survival persisted. What remains today is not perfection, but resilience. DNA carries traces of ancient solutions, preserved not because they were ideal, but because they worked. Your body is the current expression of this long experiment, an ongoing result of instructions tested across time, far beyond individual memory. As you rest now, this code remains active, not demanding attention, not requiring understanding. It does not need to be interpreted consciously to function perfectly. DNA does not wait for the mind. It operates beneath it, before it, and beyond it. The code inside you continues its quiet work, ensuring that life remains organized, responsive, and whole even as awareness begins to let go. DNA did not begin as memory. It became memory slowly, through repetition across unfathomable spans of time. In the earliest forms of life, molecular sequences copied themselves imperfectly, again and again, with no awareness of success or failure. Most copies disappeared. A few persisted. Those that remained carried a quiet advantage, the ability to continue. Over billions of cycles, this persistence transformed DNA into a recording medium, not of events, but of solutions. Life learned what worked by continuing to exist. This memory is not stored as images or stories. It is stored as structure. Each sequence reflects a past interaction with the environment, temperature, chemistry, radiation, scarcity. DNA remembers not times what happened asterisk, but times how to survive it asterisk. These memories are encoded in arrangements of bases that guide protein formation and cellular behavior. The body does not recall these memories consciously, yet it obeys them constantly. Survival is not remembered, it is executed. What makes this form of memory unique is that it does not fade. Human memory weakens with time. DNA memory strengthens through repetition. Each successful replication reinforces the sequence. Each generation becomes a confirmation that the code still works. Errors that disrupt function are removed naturally through failure to persist. What remains is not perfect design, but tested reliability. DNA remembers life by continuing it. This memory operates without reference to the present moment. DNA does not know it is ancient. It does not distinguish past from now. Sequences written millions of years ago are read today as if they were new. Time collapses inside the code. Ancient instructions coexist with modern conditions. Your cells follow rules shaped long before mammals existed, applying them seamlessly to a body that did not yet exist when those rules first formed. During rest and sleep, this memory becomes especially active. Cells repair damage using instructions refined across evolutionary time. DNA checks itself, corrects errors, and stabilizes structure, drawing on solutions developed long before conscious minds emerged. The body heals not because it knows how, but because the code remembers how. This remembering requires no awareness, no attention, no effort from you. So DNA remembers life not by looking backward, but by continuing forward. It carries the past silently into the present, shaping function without narration. While your thoughts drift and awareness softens, this memory remains intact, guiding processes that never learned how to forget. The code inside you is older than sleep itself, and it continues to remember how life stays whole even now. DNA speaks a language that existed long before thought, emotion, or awareness ever appeared. It does not use symbols, sounds, or meaning. Its language is purely relational. This sequence leads to this structure. This structure produces this function. There is no interpretation involved, only execution. Cells do not wonder what the code means. They respond to it automatically. This makes DNA the most ancient and most obedient language life has ever created. Unlike human language, DNA's grammar is physical. Each letter is a molecule. Each word is a sequence. Each sentence is a chain of chemical reactions unfolding in time. There is no ambiguity. A sequence either produces a protein correctly or it does not. Meaning is not assigned. Meaning is proven through function. Life does not debate the code. It lives it. This language operates entirely without consciousness. Cells read DNA constantly without awareness of reading. Enzymes bind to specific regions, strands unwind, instructions are copied, and proteins assemble themselves with precise folding. No cell understands the whole process. Each component performs a local task. Yet from these local actions, global order emerges. Language here is not communication, it is coordination. What makes this language powerful is its silence. DNA does not announce itself. It does not signal success. It does not mark completion. It simply continues. While the mind relies on feedback and reinforcement, DNA relies on continuity. As long as the code is read correctly, life proceeds. Silence is not absence of activity, it is the absence of commentary. And that absence allows the system to remain stable. Even now, as you rest, this language is active inside you. Cells are reading instructions written before mammals existed, before brains existed, before sleep existed. The body does not experience these instructions as old. They are present. They are current. Time has no meaning in this language. There is only sequence and response. So DNA is not just a code. It is a language without awareness, without interpretation, without doubt. A language that does not need to be heard to be obeyed. While thought quiets and consciousness fades, this language continues speaking fluently inside every cell. And because it never learned how to stop, life continues effortlessly guided by words written long before thought ever learned how to speak. At a certain depth of understanding, it becomes clear that DNA does not wait for awareness to function. It does not require attention, intention, or belief. The code runs continuously, executing instructions with the same precision whether the mind is alert, distracted, or completely asleep. Consciousness is optional to life at this level. The body continues because the code continues. Awareness is a guest, not a requirement. This realization shifts how the mind relates to control. Much of conscious thought is devoted to managing, deciding, correcting. DNA does none of this. It does not evaluate outcomes or anticipate futures. It follows sequence. If conditions are met, an instruction is executed. If they are not, it remains silent. This simplicity is not limitation. It is efficiency refined across time. Life persists because it does not overthink itself. Within this system, silence is not inactivity, silence is readiness. Most genes are not active at any given moment. They remain quiet, available, waiting for specific conditions. This restraint prevents chaos. It allows the body to respond precisely rather than constantly. The code knows when not to act, and this knowing does not come from awareness, it comes from structure. As the mind begins to rest, this contrast becomes soothing. Thought can stop without consequence. Nothing essential is lost when awareness fades. The body does not pause. Repair continues. Balance is maintained. The code inside you does not notice that you are letting go. It does not need to. It was never dependent on being noticed in the first place. This is why sleep is possible. If life required constant attention, rest would be dangerous. But DNA makes rest safe. It carries continuity forward while consciousness steps aside. The mind is allowed to disappear temporarily because something deeper remains in place, executing instructions that do not forget, tire, or hesitate. So the first truth of the code inside you is this: life does not depend on awareness to continue correctly. The code runs quietly, steadily, faithfully, long after thought has softened into silence. And knowing this, even briefly, allows the mind to release its grip because something far more ancient than consciousness is already keeping everything in order. Every cell in your body carries the same DNA, yet each cell behaves as if it knows exactly what it is meant to be. A neuron does not attempt to become muscle. A skin cell does not try to think. This is not because the code is different, but because the code is read differently. Identity at the cellular level is not about possession of information, but about interpretation. Each cell knows who it is by knowing which parts of the code to remain silent about. This selective expression is controlled through layers of regulation that sit above the DNA sequence itself. Chemical markers attached to DNA and its associated proteins, signaling which instructions should be accessible and which should remain closed. These markers do not change the code, they change its availability. In this way, identity emerges not from rewriting instructions, but from choosing which ones to ignore. Silence becomes as important as expression. What is remarkable is that this identity is stable. Once a cell commits to a role, it maintains that role across countless divisions. A liver cell produces liver cells. A heart cell remains a heart cell. This stability allows the body to function as a coherent whole rather than a collection of competing parts. Identity is preserved not through awareness, but through memory embedded in regulation. The cell does not remember who it is consciously, it remembers structurally. This cellular identity operates continuously without reference to the organism as a whole. Each cell responds only to local signals, chemical gradients, neighboring cells, internal states. There is no central authority telling it what to do. Order emerges from cooperation rather than command. The body is not managed from above. It is coordinated from within, one cell at a time, following shared rules encoded in DNA. As you rest, this coordination continues effortlessly. Cells communicate, divide, repair, and specialize without any involvement from thought. Your sense of self may fade during sleep, but cellular identity remains intact. The body does not lose itself when awareness softens. It maintains structure because identity is not held in consciousness. It is held in code. So every cell knows who you are, not because it understands you, but because it follows instructions refined over time to maintain coherence. Identity does not depend on memory or attention. It depends on structure, regulation, and restraint. And while the mind releases its grip and drifts into rest, the cells continue quietly, faithfully expressing exactly who you are without ever needing to know your name. Cells do not wake up each day and decide what to become. They remember. This memory is not stored as images or experiences, but as molecular patterns that persist through time. As a cell divides, it passes on not only DNA, but also regulatory markers that define which parts of the code remain active. These markers act like bookmarks, quietly reminding the new cell which instructions belong to its identity. Memory, at this level, is continuity rather than recollection. This cellular memory is maintained through epigenetic mechanisms, chemical modifications that sit on top of the DNA sequence. These modifications do not alter the code itself. They alter how tightly it is packed, how accessible it is, and how often it is read. In this way, the same genetic text can produce countless outcomes, each stable and consistent. The cell does not need to remember the past. It carries the past forward structurally. What makes this system reliable is its resistance to noise. Random fluctuations, environmental changes, and internal variation do not easily disrupt cellular identity. The regulatory network surrounding DNA filters signals carefully, responding only to conditions that matter. This filtering prevents confusion. A muscle cell does not suddenly forget how to contract because the temperature changes slightly. Identity is protected by layers of restraint. During sleep, this memory becomes especially important. While consciousness disengages, cells continue to maintain their roles without supervision. Tissues repair themselves according to identity-specific rules. Skin renews, muscles recover, the immune system patrols. Each process follows instructions shaped by cellular memory rather than awareness. The body rests because its parts remember how to function independently. This distributed memory allows the organism to be resilient. No single point of failure can erase identity. Even if individual cells are damaged or lost, others carry the same memory forward. The body does not rely on a central archive. It relies on redundancy, repetition, and structure. Identity is everywhere at once, quietly maintained. So, when cells remember their role, they do so without thought, without narrative, without effort. Memory exists as pattern, not story. And as your mind drifts away from identity during rest, this deeper memory remains untouched, holding the body together, guiding function, and preserving who you are at a level far below awareness. Cells do not act randomly, and they do not act continuously. They wait. Action at the cellular level is always a response to signals, chemical messages that indicate when conditions are right. These signals travel through fluids, across membranes, and between neighboring cells, carrying information about the state of the body. DNA does not decide on its own when to be read. It listens. Only when the correct signal arrives does the code open and allow instructions to unfold. These signals come in many forms: hormones circulating through the bloodstream, neurotransmitters released locally, proteins exchanged between cells. Each signal carries a specific meaning, defined not by intention, but by molecular shape. A receptor on the cell surface recognizes a signal the way a lock recognizes a key. When the match is correct, a cascade begins. The signal is translated inward, eventually reaching the nucleus where DNA resides. Only then does the code respond. What makes this system elegant is its precision. Signals are rarely absolute commands. They are probabilities. They increase or decrease the likelihood that certain genes will be expressed. This allows cells to adapt gradually rather than abruptly. The body does not shift states violently. It transitions. DNA responds in degrees, adjusting output to match the environment. Life moves smoothly because its instructions are modulated rather than forced. Timing is critical in this process. A signal that arrives too early or too late may have no effect at all. Cells are sensitive not just to presence, but to rhythm. Repeated signals strengthen response. Isolated signals fade. This temporal sensitivity allows the body to ignore noise and respond only to sustained conditions. DNA is patient. It waits for confirmation before acting. During rest and sleep, these signaling patterns change. Growth and repair signals become more prominent. Stress-related signals diminish. DNA shifts its priorities accordingly, focusing on maintenance rather than response. Cells do not need conscious instruction to make this shift. The signals arrive, and the code follows. Repair begins quietly, guided by chemistry rather than awareness. So cells act not because they choose to, but because they are informed to. DNA does not initiate without context. It listens to the body first. This listening happens constantly, even when the mind is absent. And as awareness fades into rest, the signaling continues, guiding the code to act only when needed, keeping life balanced in silence. At the deepest level, cellular identity does not depend on awareness to remain intact. Even when the mind releases its sense of self, the body does not forget what it is. Cells continue to recognize their role, respond to signals, and maintain structure without any reference to consciousness. Identity at this level is not experienced, it is executed. The organism persists because identity is embedded in regulation, not in thought. This continuity reveals something fundamental about life. Awareness feels central because it is where experience happens, yet experience is not where function is maintained. The body does not ask the mind who it should be. It follows instructions refined long before consciousness appeared. When awareness fades during sleep, identity does not weaken. It becomes more efficient, freed from interference, guided purely by chemical logic and timing. During deep rest, this separation becomes especially clear. The sense of I dissolves into quiet, but cells remain precise. They divide where needed, repair what is damaged, and hold boundaries without confusion. There is no loss of direction. The body does not drift. It stays organized because identity is distributed everywhere at once, carried by countless cells acting locally yet coherently. This distributed identity is what makes life resilient. No single point holds the blueprint of who you are. Identity is repeated endlessly, reinforced through every division, every repair, every regulated response. Even when parts are lost, the pattern persists. The body remembers itself without needing a central memory. Continuity emerges naturally from structure. As the mind rests, this knowledge can feel deeply reassuring. Nothing essential is abandoned when awareness lets go. The body does not need supervision to remain whole. Life continues correctly in silence. Identity does not require witnessing. It requires only that the code continues to be read and respected by the systems that evolved to follow it. So the second truth of the code inside you is this: who you are does not disappear when you stop paying attention. Identity is not held in consciousness. It is held in cells, signals, and structure. And as awareness softens and sleep deepens, that identity remains steady, carrying the body forward effortlessly, exactly as it was always designed to do. DNA does not experience time the way the mind does. For consciousness, time moves forward, moment by moment, measured by change and awareness. For DNA, time is accumulation. Each replication carries traces of what has worked before, layered slowly across generations. The code does not rush. It waits, repeats, and preserves patterns that remain functional. In this way, DNA becomes a slow memory of time itself, storing not moments, but endurance. This memory operates on scales the mind cannot feel. Thousands of years are insignificant. Millions pass without urgency. DNA does not respond to short-term outcomes. It responds to persistence. Sequences that support survival remain, not because they were chosen, but because they continued. Time leaves its mark, not through intention, but through repetition. What lasts becomes written. What fails dissolves quietly without record. Inside your body, this ancient timing still governs function. Cells follow instructions shaped by environments that no longer exist: oceans without oxygen, skies without protection, worlds without rest. Yet these instructions remain valid enough to guide life today. DNA does not update itself to the present. It adapts gradually, carrying forward solutions that remain sufficient. The past is not stored separately. It is active now, expressed continuously. During sleep, this relationship with time becomes clearer. Awareness disconnects from sequence. The mind stops tracking before and after. DNA continues unaffected. Repair mechanisms activate according to rhythms older than circadian cycles. Damage is corrected using templates shaped by evolutionary time. Healing does not hurry. It follows a pace refined across countless repetitions. The body recovers because the code remembers how recovery unfolds slowly. So DNA holds time differently than memory or history. It does not recall events, it carries processes. The code inside you is not ancient in the way ruins are ancient. It is ancient in the way movement is ancient, ongoing, uninterrupted, and present. While thought releases its grip on time, this deeper memory continues its work, guiding life forward at a pace so slow it feels like stillness. Evolution, as carried by DNA, has never been in a hurry. Unlike conscious decision-making, which is driven by urgency and consequence, evolutionary change unfolds without preference or pressure. DNA does not seek improvement. It allows variation, then waits. Time does the choosing. Sequences that continue remain. Sequences that fail disappear quietly. Nothing is rushed and nothing is mourned. Life progresses not through ambition, but through patience written into chemistry. This lack of urgency is essential to stability. Rapid change would fracture continuity. DNA preserves structure by changing only when change is unavoidable. Most of the code remains untouched for vast stretches of time, repeating itself faithfully, generation after generation. These repetitions are not redundant, they are confirmations. Each successful copy reinforces the instruction that this sequence still belongs. Evolution advances not by rewriting everything, but by keeping almost everything the same. Inside your body, this evolutionary patience is still present. Cellular processes operate with a calm indifference to immediate outcome. Repair takes the time it takes. Growth unfolds according to rhythm rather than demand. DNA does not accelerate because the mind wants results. It follows schedules established long before minds existed. This slowness is not inefficiency. It is protection against error. Stability requires time. During rest and sleep, this evolutionary pace becomes more visible. While awareness disconnects from goals and timelines, the body aligns with deeper rhythms. DNA-guided processes continue without reference to urgency. Cells rebuild, correct, and maintain according to rules that assume there is enough time. This assumption is built into life itself. Survival at the molecular level depends on patience, not speed. So evolution lives inside you as a refusal to rush. DNA carries forward solutions that have survived precisely because they did not overreact. This calm persistence is the true intelligence of life. While thought fades and time loses meaning, the code continues doing what it has always done, moving forward slowly enough to remain whole, steady enough to endure, and patient enough to keep life intact without ever needing to hurry. DNA does not remember the past as something that is over. It carries the past forward as something that is still working. Every sequence inside your cells is a solution that once allowed life to continue under specific conditions. Those conditions may no longer exist, yet the solution remains embedded, active, and available. Evolutionary time does not archive history, it layers it. The past does not sit behind you, it operates within you, quietly shaping function without ever announcing its age. This layered memory means that your body is not purely modern. It is a living accumulation of ancient responses. Cellular stress reactions reflect environments that were once far more hostile. Repair mechanisms reflect damage patterns repeated across geological eras. Even the way cells conserve energy carries the imprint of scarcity long gone. DNA does not delete what once worked. It keeps it unless it becomes harmful. Continuity is favored over novelty because continuity is safer. What makes this process so stable is that DNA does not distinguish between then and now. Instructions written millions of years ago are read today with the same neutrality. The code does not age. It does not update itself deliberately. It changes only when repetition fails. This means that time inside DNA is not linear, it is circular. The same instructions are revisited endlessly, validated again and again by successful function. During sleep, this relationship with the past becomes especially active. Repair and maintenance draw directly from ancient templates. The body does not improvise healing. It follows patterns tested across evolutionary time. Damage is corrected not creatively, but reliably. The mind may drift without memory, but the body remembers exactly how to restore itself. The past becomes practical rather than historical. So the third truth of the code is this: DNA is not a record of where life has been. It is a mechanism for carrying what still works forward without question. You are not separate from evolutionary time. You are its current expression. And as awareness releases its grip on personal history, this deeper memory continues calmly, patiently, ensuring that life moves forward without ever needing to look back. DNA copies itself without awareness, without observation, and without hesitation. There is no moment where the code pauses to check whether it is being seen or understood. Replication begins when conditions allow, guided entirely by molecular compatibility and timing. Enzymes bind, strands separate, complementary bases align, and a new copy forms with extraordinary precision. This process unfolds billions of times across your body every day, quietly maintaining continuity while the mind remains completely uninvolved. What makes this copying remarkable is its silence. There are no signals announcing success, no feedback loops requiring attention. The system does not celebrate accuracy or mourn error, it simply proceeds. Errors are corrected automatically through built-in mechanisms refined over evolutionary time. When correction fails, the system adapts by allowing failure to remove itself. Silence is not neglect here. It is confidence built into structure. The code trusts its own process enough not to supervise itself. This silence protects stability. Conscious systems are reactive, easily disrupted by urgency or fear. DNA is immune to this. It does not accelerate under pressure or slow down from doubt. Its pace is steady, determined by chemistry rather than circumstance. This steadiness ensures that replication remains reliable even under changing conditions. Life continues not because it reacts quickly, but because it repeats accurately. Inside your body, this silent copying ensures that identity persists. Each new cell receives a complete set of instructions, ready to be interpreted according to context. The body does not lose coherence as it renews itself. Old cells fade, new cells appear, yet the pattern remains intact. Continuity is preserved not through memory, but through faithful replication that never requires awareness. During sleep, this process continues uninterrupted. While consciousness releases control and attention dissolves, DNA replication and repair proceed exactly as they do during waking life. The body does not pause because the mind rests. Silence does not interrupt function. Instead, it allows function to proceed without interference. Life carries itself forward quietly, copying its own instructions again and again, ensuring that when awareness returns, the body is still whole. The precision with which DNA copies itself does not come from intelligence in the human sense. It comes from structure refined until error becomes unlikely. Every step of replication is constrained by physical laws that leave little room for improvisation. Bases pair only with their complements. Enzymes attach only where shape and charge allow. The process is guided not by choice, but by inevitability. Precision emerges because nothing else is permitted to happen. This inevitability is what makes the system so calm. There is no decision point where uncertainty can enter. Each molecular interaction follows rules enforced by chemistry itself. Thought is unnecessary because alternatives do not exist. DNA does not weigh possibilities. It follows pathways that have been narrowed over billions of years. The result is accuracy that feels intentional, yet contains no intention at all. Error correction strengthens this calm precision. When mismatches occur, specialized mechanisms detect distortion in the structure and correct it automatically. These corrections do not require awareness of error. They respond only to physical inconsistency. When correction is impossible, replication halts or the faulty copy is removed. Failure is not analyzed, it is filtered out. Stability is preserved through quiet exclusion rather than reaction. Inside your body, this precision maintains coherence across constant change. Cells are replaced continuously, yet the overall pattern remains stable. Skin renews, blood replenishes, tissues repair. The code remains consistent because copying does not drift. Identity is preserved not because it is remembered consciously, but because precision prevents deviation. Life stays recognizable because it reproduces itself accurately at every level. During rest, this precision becomes especially evident. The mind may wander or fade completely, but the code does not relax its standards. Replication continues with the same rigor, the same restraint. Sleep does not reduce accuracy. Silence does not invite chaos. The system performs best when undisturbed, following rules that never learned how to doubt themselves. And in that precision, without thought, life continues steadily, exactly as it should. In the quiet process of replication, not every copy is perfect. Small deviations occur, not as failures, but as natural consequences of repetition over time. DNA does not fear these deviations. It allows them, knowing that most will fade without effect. Yet occasionally, a variation survives. When it does, it becomes information. Not information stored consciously, but information tested through continuation. Life learns not by avoiding error, but by allowing it to exist without reaction. This tolerance for imperfection is essential. A system that demanded absolute accuracy would become rigid and fragile. DNA remains stable because it is flexible at the edges. Most changes are filtered out quietly. A few integrate. These integrated changes are not judged as good or bad. They are carried forward only if they do not disrupt function. Time performs the evaluation. The code does not decide. It waits. Inside your body, this principle still applies. Cellular replication includes constant monitoring for distortion, yet it does not aim for perfection. It aims for sufficiency. Errors that compromise function are corrected or removed. Errors that do not interfere remain invisible. This balance allows life to adapt slowly without destabilizing itself. Change occurs, but only at a pace that preserves coherence. This slow integration of variation creates resilience. The body does not need to anticipate every possible future. It only needs to remain functional in the present. DNA accomplishes this by allowing small changes to exist long enough to be tested. Most disappear. A few persist. Those that persist reshape function gradually, without urgency. Evolution happens quietly, beneath awareness, without pressure. As you rest, this process continues unnoticed. Copies are made, variations arise, corrections occur. Nothing announces itself. The mind does not need to be informed. The code handles uncertainty the way it always has, by allowing time to decide. And in that patience, life remains adaptable without ever becoming unstable. DNA does not rely on perfection to survive. It relies on correction. Every time the code is copied, the system expects small imperfections to appear. This expectation is not pessimism, it is design. Built into the molecular machinery are mechanisms that scan, detect, and repair mismatches before they can spread. These corrections happen automatically, without awareness, without pause, and without emotional response. Life continues not because mistakes never happen, but because they are handled quietly and immediately. What makes this correction remarkable is that it does not interrupt the flow of life. The system does not stop to evaluate consequences. It does not analyze what went wrong. It simply restores structure where structure is required. When repair is possible, it happens. When it is not, the faulty copy is prevented from continuing. This filtering preserves coherence without drama. DNA does not panic in the presence of error. It neutralizes it and moves on. Inside your body, this process unfolds constantly. Cells replicate, detect inconsistencies, and correct them long before they could ever affect function. The body remains stable not because it is static, but because it is continuously maintained. Repair is not an emergency response. It is the default mode of life. Silence allows this work to continue efficiently, free from interference or urgency. During sleep, correction becomes even more prominent. With fewer external demands, resources shift toward maintenance and repair. DNA checks itself more thoroughly. Damage accumulated during waking life is addressed methodically. The mind may be unaware, but the code is active, restoring balance according to rules refined across evolutionary time. Rest is possible because correction never stops. So the final truth of replication is not accuracy, but resilience. DNA survives not by being flawless, but by being forgiving in a precise way. It allows error, corrects what matters, and releases what does not. While awareness fades and thought loosens its grip, this self-correcting system continues steadily, ensuring that life remains intact, functional, and whole without ever needing to be watched. When sleep begins, the body does not slow down its most essential work. It refocuses it. As awareness fades and the mind releases control, cellular activity becomes more coordinated, not less. DNA reading does not pause during sleep. It becomes more selective and more efficient. Signals associated with repair, growth, and restoration increase, guiding the code toward maintenance rather than response. The body uses sleep as a window, where fewer external demands allow deeper internal precision. During this state, the nervous system reduces interference, stress-related signals diminish, and hormonal patterns shift toward repair-oriented chemistry. Growth hormone increases. Inflammatory signaling quiets. These changes act as permissions for DNA to open specific regions related to healing and renewal. The code is not read randomly. It is read according to context, and sleep provides a context optimized for restoration. The body does not need consciousness to organize this shift. Chemistry handles it. Inside cells, transcription patterns change subtly but decisively. Genes involved in repairing DNA damage, rebuilding tissue, and stabilizing cellular structure become more active. Proteins responsible for correcting errors and maintaining integrity are produced in greater proportion. This reading happens quietly, without sensation. You do not feel your DNA being accessed, yet the effects accumulate steadily, restoring balance at levels far below awareness. This process explains why sleep deprivation disrupts health so deeply. When sleep is shortened or fragmented, the body loses access to this uninterrupted reading window. DNA still functions, but without optimal conditions. Repair becomes less thorough. errors accumulate more easily. The code does not fail dramatically. It simply has less opportunity to correct itself fully. Sleep is not rest because nothing happens. It is rest because the right things are finally allowed to happen. So while the mind drifts into stillness, the body reads the code with clarity and restraint. Instructions written long before you were born are accessed with precision, guiding repair without supervision. Nothing needs to be remembered consciously. Nothing needs to be directed. The code inside you knows exactly what to do when the mind steps aside. And in that quiet reading, the body restores itself gently, steadily, exactly as it was designed to do. As night deepens, the body begins to change the signals it sends inward. Light fades, temperature drops slightly, and hormonal rhythms shift in response. Melatonin rises, not as a sleep switch, but as a timing signal that informs cells it is safe to enter repair mode. These signals travel quietly through the bloodstream, reaching tissues and organs, altering how DNA is read without ever touching awareness. The code listens carefully to these changes, adjusting its priorities with remarkable sensitivity. Inside the cell, nighttime chemistry changes which sections of DNA become accessible. Regions associated with stress response remain mostly silent, while regions involved in repair, immune regulation, and cellular cleanup become more active. This shift is not dramatic or sudden. It unfolds gradually, like a dimming of lights across a vast system. The body does not command DNA to act. It creates conditions where certain instructions naturally rise to the surface. These signals are rhythmic rather than forceful. They repeat night after night, reinforcing the association between darkness and restoration. DNA responds best to repetition. Each night confirms the same message. External demands are low, internal work can proceed. Over time, this rhythm trains the body to become more efficient at repair during sleep. The code learns when it is most useful to be read deeply, and when it should remain restrained. This nighttime opening of the code also protects the body from unnecessary activity. Not everything needs to be expressed at once. By narrowing focus, the system conserves energy and reduces error. Fewer instructions are active, but those that are active operate with greater clarity. Repair becomes thorough rather than rushed. The body does not scatter its efforts, it concentrates them where they matter most. So sleep is not just a pause in consciousness, it is a signal-rich environment that gently unlocks specific layers of the code. DNA responds not to thought, but to timing. As awareness drifts away, these signals guide the body into a mode of quiet precision. The code opens only what is needed, closes what can wait, and continues its work in silence, restoring balance while the mind rests completely. As sleep deepens further, the body gradually withdraws energy from everything that is not essential. Movement slows, perception narrows, and conscious monitoring fades completely. What remains active is repair. DNA reading shifts almost entirely toward maintenance, correction, and stabilization. This is not a passive state. It is one of the most focused periods of biological activity the body experiences. The absence of awareness allows precision to increase, not decrease. Inside cells, damage accumulated during waking life is addressed methodically. DNA strands are inspected, breaks are repaired, and structural integrity is restored using templates refined across evolutionary time. Proteins responsible for cleanup and correction operate without interruption. There is no urgency, no pressure to finish quickly. The system assumes that time is available. Repair unfolds at the pace that ensures accuracy rather than speed. This prioritization protects long-term stability. If repair were rushed, errors would compound. DNA avoids this by reserving deep correction for periods when external demands are lowest. Sleep provides exactly this condition. With fewer signals competing for attention, the code can focus narrowly on preserving integrity. The body does not multitask at this level. It commits fully to maintenance. This focus also reduces internal noise. Inflammatory signals diminish. Stress-related pathways quiet further. The cellular environment becomes calm enough to allow fine-scale adjustments. Small corrections that would be impossible during alert states can now occur. The body uses stillness as a tool, creating a stable internal climate where precision becomes effortless. So when repair becomes the body's only priority, life does not slow down, it refines itself. DNA reads, corrects, and stabilizes without supervision. The mind is not needed for this work. Awareness rests because the system beneath it knows exactly what to do. And in this silent focus, the body restores itself carefully, patiently, and completely, guided by a code that never learned how to rush. At the deepest stage of sleep, the body reaches a condition where conscious involvement would only interfere. The mind has fully stepped aside, and with it, the need to monitor, evaluate, or control. DNA operates most efficiently in this absence. Without competing signals from awareness, the code follows its internal logic with complete freedom. Processes align naturally. Repair completes itself without interruption. Life continues not because it is observed, but because observation is no longer required. This reveals a quiet truth about biological intelligence. Some systems are not improved by attention, they are optimized by silence. DNA does not benefit from intention or effort. It benefits from stability, predictability, and uninterrupted time. Sleep provides these conditions perfectly. The body does not need to decide what to heal or restore. The code already knows. It has been performing this task long before consciousness existed. In this state, identity itself becomes irrelevant. There is no sense of self overseeing function. Cells act locally, responding only to immediate chemical context. Yet, from this local action, global order is maintained. The organism remains whole, without a central coordinator. Life does not depend on awareness to remain organized. It depends on countless small processes continuing correctly in silence. This is why deep sleep feels so restorative, even when it is dreamless and forgotten. Restoration does not require memory, it requires completion. DNA completes cycles of repair that cannot occur during waking life. The mind may not remember the work that was done, but the body reflects it upon waking. Balance is restored quietly, without narrative. So, when the code works best without you, it is not excluding you, it is protecting you. It ensures that life remains stable even when awareness disappears. As sleep deepens and thought dissolves, this deeper intelligence continues steadily, maintaining structure, correcting damage, and carrying life forward without effort, without supervision, exactly as it was always designed to do. DNA does not function as isolated instructions locked inside individual cells. It operates as part of a vast, coordinated network that spans the entire body. Cells constantly exchange signals that influence how the code is read when it is activated and when it remains silent. This communication is chemical rather than verbal, precise rather than expressive. Hormones, proteins, and molecular messengers carry information from one region to another, ensuring that local decisions align with the needs of the whole organism. This communication allows DNA to respond to context rather than command. A cell does not act simply because it contains instructions. It acts because signals indicate that action is appropriate. These signals reflect the state of tissues, organs, and systems beyond the cell itself. In this way, DNA reading becomes a conversation rather than a monologue. The code listens as much as it speaks, adjusting expression to maintain balance across the body. Timing plays a crucial role in this exchange. Signals do not arrive all at once. They rise and fall in rhythms that reflect daily cycles, metabolic needs, and long-term adaptation. DNA responds to sustained signals, not fleeting noise. This prevents overreaction and preserves stability. Communication is filtered through duration, allowing only meaningful patterns to influence expression. The body avoids chaos by refusing to respond to every signal equally. During sleep, this communication becomes quieter but more coherent. With fewer external disturbances, signaling pathways align more smoothly. Repair-related messages travel with less interference. DNA reads these messages with clarity, coordinating restoration across tissues without central oversight. The body behaves like a synchronized system rather than a collection of parts. Silence enhances communication rather than limiting it. So the code communicates not through awareness, but through structure and timing. Information flows continuously across the body, guiding expression without ever becoming conscious. While the mind rests, this network remains active, ensuring that each cell acts in harmony with the whole. Life continues as a coordinated process, carried forward by communication that never needs to be heard to be obeyed. For DNA to function as a unified system, communication alone is not enough. Signals must also arrive in coordination. Synchronization ensures that cells do not act out of sequence or in isolation. Hormonal waves, metabolic cues, and electrical rhythms align activity across distant tissues, allowing the code to be read in harmony. This synchronization prevents conflict. Cells do not compete for resources or act prematurely. They wait for timing that makes sense for the whole body. These synchronizing signals are subtle and continuous. They do not shout commands. They drift through the body like currents, adjusting thresholds rather than issuing orders. DNA responds to these currents by modulating expression gradually. Genes are not turned on or off abruptly. They are eased into activity or gently restrained. This smooth adjustment maintains equilibrium, ensuring that change never overwhelms structure. Circadian rhythms play a central role in this process. Light and darkness shape hormonal release, temperature cycles, and metabolic timing. DNA reads these rhythms as context, not instruction. When night arrives, synchronizing signals favor restoration. When day returns, they support responsiveness. The code adapts to these rhythms automatically, maintaining alignment with the external world without conscious awareness. During sleep, synchronization reaches its peak. With fewer competing signals, internal rhythms align more precisely. Repair processes across different tissues occur in coordinated phases rather than random bursts. DNA expression becomes coherent across the body, ensuring that restoration happens efficiently and without waste. Silence does not disrupt this alignment. It strengthens it by removing interference. So, synchronization is the quiet intelligence that allows the code to function as one. DNA does not need a central controller to stay aligned. It relies on shared signals, repeated rhythms, and patient timing. While the mind rests, this synchronization continues seamlessly, keeping every part of the body connected, coordinated, and whole, guided by signals that never need to be consciously noticed. DNA does not wait to be told what to do. It adjusts continuously, guided by the internal state of the body rather than external commands. Changes in temperature, nutrient availability, oxygen levels, and chemical balance all influence how the code is read. These adjustments happen gradually, without announcement, ensuring that the system remains stable while adapting. The body does not pause to plan its response. It shifts naturally, following signals that reflect present conditions. This adjustment relies on feedback loops that operate quietly in the background. When a process produces too much or too little of something, signals return to the nucleus, altering gene expression slightly. DNA responds by fine-tuning output rather than initiating drastic change. This restraint is essential. It prevents oscillation and instability. Life remains balanced because adjustment is always proportional, never extreme. What makes this process reliable is its decentralization. No single cell needs to know the full state of the body. Each cell responds only to local information and shared signals. Yet from these limited perspectives, global coherence emerges. The code does not need a master plan. It needs consistency. Adjustment happens everywhere at once, guided by the same physical principles repeated across the system. During sleep, this adaptive process becomes more refined. With fewer disruptions, feedback signals are clearer. DNA reads the internal environment with greater precision, making subtle corrections that would be difficult during waking life. Metabolic balance is restored. Stress-related patterns soften. The code does not rush to fix everything. It prioritizes stability, correcting only what truly needs attention. So the code adjusts not through awareness, but through sensitivity. It listens continuously to the body it supports, responding without instruction, intention, or oversight. While the mind rests and releases control, this adaptive intelligence continues steadily, ensuring that life remains responsive without becoming reactive, flexible without losing form, and calm without becoming inactive. At its deepest level, DNA does not merely respond or adjust, it holds. It maintains coherence across a body that is constantly changing, renewing, and aging. Cells are born and cells disappear, yet the overall structure remains stable. This stability does not come from awareness or memory, but from continuous coordination. The code acts as a quiet binding force, ensuring that countless local actions resolve into a single, functioning whole. This holding is achieved through balance rather than control. DNA does not force uniformity across cells. It allows difference, specialization, and local variation, while maintaining shared rules that prevent fragmentation. Each cell operates within limits defined by the code. These limits are not restrictive. They are protective. They ensure that freedom does not become disorder and adaptation does not become collapse. During waking life, this cohesion is often taken for granted. Movement, thought, and sensation dominate awareness. Yet beneath all of it, the code maintains alignment without interruption. Organs cooperate, systems communicate, boundaries remain intact. The body feels like one thing because DNA continuously reinforces that unity at the molecular level, without ever announcing its work. In deep rest, this holding becomes even more apparent. As consciousness loosens its sense of ownership, the body does not dissolve. It remains organized because cohesion does not depend on attention. DNA continues to stabilize relationships between cells, tissues, and systems. Life does not scatter when awareness fades. It stays together because the code never stops reinforcing structure. So the final truth of communication is this: DNA does not only speak and listen, it holds everything in place. While the mind releases effort and identity softens into sleep, this deeper intelligence remains active, maintaining unity without force, stability without rigidity, and continuity without awareness. The body rests safely because something far older than thought is quietly keeping it whole. DNA does not exist in isolation from the world around you. It is constantly informed by the environment the body moves through, even when awareness is absent. Temperature, light, nutrition, stress, and chemical exposure all leave subtle signatures that influence how the code is read. These influences do not rewrite DNA itself. They shape its expression, gently shifting which instructions rise to the surface and which remain silent. The code listens continuously, not to thoughts, but to conditions. This responsiveness allows life to remain flexible without losing form. When the environment becomes demanding, DNA supports pathways that prioritize survival and responsiveness. When conditions soften, it allows restoration and growth to take precedence. These transitions are not dramatic switches. They are gradual rebalancings, unfolding across hours, days, and sometimes generations. The body does not react instantly. It adjusts patiently, ensuring that change does not overwhelm stability. What makes this environmental sensitivity remarkable is its subtlety. DNA does not respond to isolated events. It responds to patterns. Repeated signals strengthen influence. Temporary disturbances fade without consequence. This protects the system from overreaction. A single stressful moment does not permanently alter the code's behavior. Only sustained conditions leave lasting impact. DNA learns the environment the way it learned life itself, through repetition, not urgency. During sleep, environmental influence continues in a quieter form. The absence of light, reduced sensory input, and lowered metabolic demand all signal safety. DNA interprets this as permission to shift focus inward. Repair, regulation, and consolidation become more prominent. The environment does not need to be consciously perceived to affect the code. Darkness itself is a signal. Stillness is information. Silence communicates stability. So the code responds to the environment not as a threat or command, but as context. It does not fight conditions, it aligns with them. While the mind releases control and drifts away from the world, DNA remains engaged with it at a deeper level. The body adapts without awareness, adjusting expression quietly to remain balanced within its surroundings. Life continues its conversation with the environment, even as consciousness rests. Every experience the body passes through leaves a subtle imprint, not as memory in the mind, but as adjustment in the body. DNA itself remains unchanged, yet the way it is read shifts in response to repeated conditions. Nutrition, stress, safety, and rest all influence molecular markers that sit on top of the code, quietly guiding expression. These traces do not store stories or images. They store tendencies, slight biases towards certain responses that help the body adapt to what it encounters most often. This process unfolds slowly and without awareness. A single experience is rarely enough to leave a lasting trace. DNA responds to patterns, not moments. Repeated exposure reinforces certain pathways, making them easier to activate in the future. In this way, the body learns without remembering. It prepares itself chemically for what is likely to return, adjusting expression to meet expected conditions without conscious planning or anticipation. What makes this system stable is its reversibility. Molecular traces are not permanent commands. They are flexible adjustments that can fade when conditions change. Prolonged safety can soften stress-related patterns. Consistent rest can recalibrate repair mechanisms. DNA does not cling to past environments if they are no longer relevant. It updates gradually, releasing what is no longer needed without conflict or resistance. During sleep, these traces are processed and reorganized. The absence of immediate demand allows the body to evaluate which patterns should persist and which should weaken. Repair pathways restore balance. Stress-related signals quiet. The code is not rewritten, but its expression is gently refined. Sleep acts as a clearing space where experience is integrated without becoming burden. So experience leaves its mark, not as memory, but as readiness. DNA absorbs the environment quietly, translating repetition into preparation. While the mind drifts and awareness dissolves, this deeper learning continues. The body adapts without remembering why, adjusting itself to remain resilient, responsive, and whole, guided by traces that never need to rise into thought. Adaptation at the level of DNA does not require remembering what happened before. The body does not replay events or compare outcomes. Instead, it shifts its internal balance quietly, guided by repeated conditions rather than recalled experience. DNA expression adjusts incrementally, responding to what is present often enough to matter. There is no awareness of learning, no moment of recognition. Adaptation unfolds as a gradual change in readiness, allowing the body to meet the world as it is, not as it was remembered. This form of adaptation is deeply conservative. The system avoids dramatic shifts unless conditions persist long enough to justify them. DNA does not assume the future will resemble a single intense moment. It assumes the future will resemble the pattern that repeats. This protects the body from overfitting to short-lived experiences. Only what endures shapes expression. Only what returns often enough leaves a lasting influence. Inside the body, this means that change happens quietly, beneath perception. Metabolic pathways adjust efficiency. Stress responses recalibrate sensitivity. Repair mechanisms shift emphasis. None of this feels like learning. There is no sensation of adaptation taking place. Yet over time, the body behaves differently, responding more smoothly to familiar conditions. DNA has adjusted without ever forming a memory that could be recalled. During sleep, this adaptive process becomes clearer. With consciousness disengaged, The body is free to integrate signals without narrative. The absence of thought prevents exaggeration. DNA does not overinterpret experience. It weighs patterns calmly, allowing only sustained signals to influence future expression. Sleep becomes the space where adaptation settles, where adjustment completes itself without interference. So adaptation does not require memory in the human sense. It requires only repetition and time. DNA changes how it is read without ever knowing why. While the mind forgets, the body remembers differently through structure, sensitivity, and restraint. And as awareness softens into rest, this deeper adaptation continues, shaping resilience quietly, steadily, and without ever needing to be remembered. At this level, learning no longer resembles anything the conscious mind would recognize. There is no insight, no realization, no moment where understanding appears. The code adjusts quietly, integrating patterns without awareness of doing so. DNA does not reflect on experience. It incorporates it structurally, altering sensitivity and expression only when repetition demands it. Learning here is not cognitive. It is physical, gradual, and silent. This kind of learning is remarkably stable. Because it does not rely on memory or interpretation, it cannot be distorted by emotion or expectation. The code does not exaggerate threat or cling to comfort. It responds only to sustained conditions. This restraint prevents overreaction. The body becomes prepared without becoming rigid. DNA learns just enough to remain functional, never more than necessary. Inside the body, this learning expresses itself as calm competence. Systems respond efficiently without hesitation. Stress pathways activate only when truly needed. Repair mechanisms engage smoothly. The organism behaves as if it understands the environment, even though no understanding exists. The code has learned patterns without knowing them, shaping behavior without awareness. During sleep, this learning completes itself. Without conscious interference, the body evaluates which adjustments should persist. Signals that repeat are reinforced. Signals that fade are released. DNA expression settles into a configuration that reflects what truly matters. Sleep allows learning to stabilize, free from narrative, free from interpretation. So the final truth of adaptation is this: DNA learns without awareness, memory, or intention. It does not need to know the world to respond to it correctly. While the mind rests and releases control, this deeper intelligence continues quietly, refining readiness without ever asking why. And in that silence, life becomes prepared not through thought, but through patient, invisible learning. There comes a depth where adaptation itself becomes unnecessary, not because conditions have stopped changing, but because the system has reached a state of internal stability that no longer requires constant adjustment. DNA does not freeze or become inactive at this point. It simply maintains. The code holds a configuration that works well enough across a wide range of conditions, allowing life to continue without continuous recalibration. This is not rigidity. It is resilience achieved through balance. At this depth, the body no longer treats the environment as something that must be reacted to immediately. Signals are received, but they do not demand change. DNA remains attentive without being reactive. Expression stays within a stable range, neither escalating nor withdrawing. The system has learned enough to trust itself. Adaptation slows because it is no longer urgently needed. stability becomes the dominant mode. This state reflects the long arc of evolutionary refinement. DNA does not aim to be perfectly suited to every moment. It aims to remain functional across uncertainty. When a configuration proves reliable over time, it is preserved. The code does not chase novelty. It allows the world to move around it while it holds its ground. Life persists not through constant change, but through the ability to remain sufficient. During deep rest, this condition becomes especially apparent. The body no longer signals the need for correction or adjustment. Repair has completed its immediate tasks. Systems settle into quiet coordination. DNA expression remains steady, neither opening new pathways nor closing existing ones. The absence of urgency is not neglect, it is completion. Nothing is demanding attention. So when the code no longer needs to adapt, it has not stopped listening. It has simply learned that listening does not always require response. While awareness fades and sleep deepens, this stability holds the body gently in place. Life continues not through effort, but through equilibrium. And in that equilibrium, the code rests not by shutting down, but by remaining exactly as it is, complete enough to carry life forward without change. At this stage, stability no longer feels like something that must be protected. It exists on its own, quietly sustained by the structure of the code. DNA does not actively defend balance. It embodies it. Processes continue at a pace that feels almost motionless, yet nothing is paused. Life flows without friction because nothing is being forced. Stability here is not tension held in place, but a natural settling of countless systems into alignment. This effortless stability emerges when regulation no longer needs correction. Feedback loops remain active, but they rarely trigger change. Signals arrive and dissolve without consequence. DNA expression remains within a narrow, calm range, neither escalating nor diminishing. The system has found a configuration that absorbs variation without reacting to it. This is not insensitivity. It is tolerance refined through time. Inside the body, this state feels like quiet coherence. Organs function without drawing attention. Systems communicate without urgency. There is no internal demand that rises to awareness. The absence of sensation does not indicate inactivity, it indicates harmony. When nothing calls for adjustment, the code remains steady, allowing life to proceed without interruption or strain. During deep sleep, this stability becomes especially profound. With consciousness disengaged, there is nothing left to disturb equilibrium. DNA does not need to intervene. Repair has completed its cycles. Adaptation has settled. What remains is maintenance without effort. The body rests not because it has stopped, but because it is no longer compensating for imbalance. So stability without effort is the quiet achievement of the code. It is the point where nothing needs to be changed and nothing needs to be watched. While the mind dissolves into rest, this equilibrium holds gently, allowing life to continue smoothly. The code does not strive, it simply remains, carrying the body forward in a state so balanced that even adaptation can finally become still. At this depth, change is no longer the dominant force guiding life. Maintenance takes its place. DNA shifts from adjusting to preserving, from responding to sustaining. The code no longer searches for better configurations. It reinforces what already works. This transition is quiet and gradual, marked not by action, but by the absence of unnecessary movement. Life continues not by becoming different, but by remaining sufficient. Maintenance operates through subtle reinforcement. Cellular structures are stabilized. Molecular interactions are kept within narrow, reliable ranges. DNA expression does not fluctuate widely. It repeats itself calmly, confirming that the existing state remains viable. This repetition is not stagnation, it is confirmation. The system checks itself gently, ensuring continuity without introducing novelty that could disrupt balance. Inside the body, this maintenance feels like deep rest without vulnerability. Nothing is being built urgently, and nothing is breaking down. Systems function smoothly in the background. There is no signal demanding attention, no imbalance requiring correction. The code does not intervene because intervention is not needed. Stability has become self-sustaining. During sleep, this phase unfolds most clearly. With no external demands and minimal internal noise, the body settles into preservation mode. DNA maintains integrity rather than initiating change. Repair has already occurred. Adaptation has already adjusted. What remains is quiet continuity, where life holds itself gently without effort or awareness. So when maintenance replaces change, the code has reached a state of deep sufficiency. Nothing more needs to happen for life to continue correctly. While consciousness fades and time loses relevance, this quiet preservation holds steady. The body rests within a system that no longer needs to improve itself, only to remain, and in remaining, it carries life forward without strain. At the final depth, nothing needs to be explained, corrected, or guided anymore. The code does not adapt, repair, or adjust. It simply continues. DNA exists in a state of quiet sufficiency, where life no longer asks for intervention. Processes unfold at their natural pace, neither accelerating nor slowing. There is no goal left to reach, no balance left to restore. Continuity itself becomes enough. In this state, awareness has fully stepped aside. The mind no longer observes the body, and the body does not require observation. DNA does not notice the absence of thought. It does not depend on presence. Life proceeds because it always has. The code carries function forward the same way it did before consciousness ever existed. Silence is not emptiness here, it is completion. What remains active is not effort, but persistence. Cells continue their cycles, structures hold, systems remain aligned without instruction. Nothing is being optimized or improved. The code is no longer solving problems. It is sustaining existence as it is. This is the deepest form of biological rest, not stopping, but no longer needing to change. During this final stage, even the idea of sleep dissolves. There is no transition left to make. The body rests inside a system that is already stable enough to carry itself forward. Time loses relevance because nothing depends on sequence. The code does not move toward a future. It maintains a present that does not require attention. So this is where the journey ends. Not with resolution, but with continuation. The code inside you does not finish its work. It never needed to. While awareness fades completely and thought releases its last hold, life remains quietly in motion. Nothing more needs to be heard. Nothing more needs to be understood. The code continues, and you can rest